I want you to think of an embarrassing finance story that you have in your past, and then raise your hand when you've thought of it. And then I tell people, look around this room, because what you will see out of an audience of 1,000 is 1,000 hands raised. If you're at an event, from the person who is bringing you your coffee to the person who is running the event, who you're sure has their shit all together, every single one of them has an embarrassing financial story.
Hey, y'all, and welcome to the Cash Flow Podcast, where we're going to talk about everything related to the money in your small business. I'm your host, Pam, and without further ado, we're going to jump right into our episode.
Hey, this is Pam from FinCon Live in New Orleans, and so glad to be here to talk to you about a big one. Probably the thing I talk about the most, both with my existing clients and anytime I'm talking on a stage. And it's 3 things to do if you've been avoiding dealing with your finances. Now, this can be in your business or it could be you personally. So this one doubles up as a personal finance and a business finance little set of 3 things to do. So let's start with the first one. One of the big things that keeps us from looking at our finances is shame. We're ashamed of the fact that we are sure that our finance story, our bad finance story, is absolutely the worst one out there that ever happened, and that nobody else has one. So here's what I've done. I've been on a lot of stages, up to 1,000 people in the room at some points, and I've said, hey, I want you to think of an embarrassing finance story that you have in your past, and then raise your hand when you've thought of it. And then I tell people, look around this room, because what you will see out of an audience of 1,000 is 1,000 hands raised. If you're at an event, from the person who is bringing you your coffee to the person who is running the event, who you're sure has their shit all together, every single one of them has an embarrassing financial story. So this shame thing is something that I want you to deal with as thing number 1. And I want you to know that every single one of us has an embarrassing money story. There's just this thing about money because it's so emotional and we're so attached to it and we so think that it defines us as business people and as humans that we don't want to talk about it because we're just sure we're the only one in the hole. And I will tell you, every single entrepreneur I've worked with, every single entrepreneurial prospect I've worked with, every single person I've worked with on their personal finances, all the way to myself, has an embarrassing financial story. And usually we're all pretty darn sure ours is the worst one possible out there, right? So number 1, I guarantee you, are not alone and you don't have the worst story. So if you can get past this number 1 with me, it's such a huge hurdle for us that it allows you to now go to steps 2 and 3. And that's why we're giving you 3 things to do in this order. So thing 1, just take that shame for a minute for the rest of this podcast and put it up on the shelf. Okay. Just put it aside for just a little bit and trust me here to move on to 2 and 3. Okay. So what's number 2? The second thing we need to do is deal with our fear. So let's say we've gotten over the shame. All right. We're okay. All right. Everybody does this. I am now ready to deal with this. And then you've got the, oh shit, what's on the other side of that door when I open it? Fear, right? So here's the thing about fear. Fear only happens when the door's closed. Okay. Because guess what? You're imagining the tiger on the other side of that door very clearly. You know the tiger's there. And you're sitting there in fear every single day that at some point he is going to bash that door down and come after you, right? So you're sitting in that paralysis, in that fear. Now, here's the thing. Once we open the door, once you just crack it and open it, one of 2 things is going to happen. And I will tell you the most likely one because I've seen it happen 75 to 80% of the time when we've done this with clients. When you open that door, that tiger you were absolutely sure was out there turns out to be a pussycat. And it's like, oh, I can deal with this just by doing A, B, and C. Yeah, that's all we have to do. And it's done. Okay. Now, that's not always the case. There are 20, 25% of the cases where the tiger is a tiger. Let's face it. There are some pretty tough financial things happening out there in this world for a lot of people. So when you open that door, if it's a tiger, guess what? Now you switch from fear to adrenaline and actually doing something about it. So you've got this choice of leaving the door closed and having this image of that tiger coming through that door at you with you not controlling it, hovering over everything, right? It's that gray cloud that follows you everywhere. When you're talking to a client, when you're talking to a prospect, when you're talking to your family, when you're talking to your friends, when you're trying to make decisions to do things that are good for your business and you can't afford them or you think you can't afford them, it hangs over you like this awful gray cloud. Once you open, so keeping the door closed will let you stay there forever. I- Be be welcome to it. But once you open that door, the fear turns to adrenaline, right? And once the fear turns to adrenaline, now we can do something about it. Now you've taken that permanence of, oh my God, it's going to be like this forever and nothing's ever going to change. And you've turned it into something you can see, make a plan for, and attack. So that you know now, instead of just staying behind that door and worrying for a lifetime, this will be over at some point. You have a light at the end of the tunnel, and it's not a train. It's truly a light at the end of the tunnel. For you, that light may be a long way away. For others, it may be closer. It doesn't matter. There's a light. You now have guaranteed that you're not going to stay trapped in that fear for life. Okay. So that's number two. Open the door. Number one, put your shame on the shelf. Number two, open the door. See what you're dealing with. And remember what I said at the beginning, 80% of the time, the tiger is a pussycat. Honest to God, that's what tends to happen. Okay, there. Got highly emotional about that because it's such a big deal. The last thing that you want to do, once you've gotten through shame, once you've decided you're going to open the door, now you're sitting here going, oh crap, what do I do? It's overwhelming, right? I don't know what the right first step is. There are so many things coming at me. There are ads for credit score repair. There are ads for loans. There are people pinging my phone all the time with, I can give you $350,000 for 3.5% interest. And then you find out that it's basically a scam. There are people trying to buy your debt if you happen to be in debt. There are people telling you they can give you bridge loans. Like all this stuff's coming at you. There are bookkeepers saying you need a bookkeeper and tax accountants saying you need a tax accountant. It's like, where the hell do I start? I get that. What you do is breathe. You breathe and say, okay, just like anything else that's overwhelming in life, and you're an entrepreneur for the most part, most likely if you're listening to this podcast. So for all those scary things that happen in life, what do? We stop, we take a breath, and we think about what our first step should be. And that first step is usually, let's gather information. Okay. One of the places you can go to look, it's absolutely my YouTube channel, because I can pretty much guarantee that if you've got some kind of a cash flow problem, that on my YouTube channel, we've addressed it. And there are some to-dos that you can do. Other podcasts like this with the 3 things to do if sort of a thing. But the second thing is go ahead and get that bookkeeper. Get somebody to come in who could actually create reports that tell you what's really happening so that now that you've opened the door, you can see it. And what you need to get is a forecast. Okay. That's the word to put in your head for thing number 3 is get a forecast, get a lens so that you can see from here to that light at the end of the tunnel. Once you can see that, then you can start to take the steps towards it. Okay. And that heals the whole problem. So there's 3 major things to overcome if you find yourself avoiding dealing with your personal or your business taxes. Number 1, put the shame on the shelf. You are not alone. Every single person you look at, including those you admire, including those that are millionaires and multimillionaires, have an embarrassing cash story from one point or another in their lives. So that's the shame. Let's put that aside. Number 2, we got to deal with that fear. As long as you're choosing to not open the door, you don't know what you're dealing with. 8 times out of 10, the tiger on the other side of the door is a pussycat. For the 2 times out of 10 where it's not and it's actually a tiger, at least now you're going to change the status quo. You're going to turn from frozen fear into adrenaline boosted action. and you're going to see the light at the end of the tunnel. And thing three, finally, you need to make sure that you take a first step. Just like any other challenge in your business, any other challenge in your life, take the first step. I have a great story to tack on here about a friend of mine who called me for some financial help. They wanted to deal with a situation that was not going well for them financially. And we together opened that door, and that tiger was a pussycat. Everything changed for them in the moment that we made that discovery. That can be you if you just allow yourself to get past the shame, the fear, and the overwhelm. So that's what I'm wishing for you. Thanks for listening. Again, this is Pam live at FinCon, and we will see you again next week.
I hope that video was helpful, and I hope you subscribe to my channel for more information on finances in your business.